What's up, guys? It's Bradley and Zach. Today is Friday, October 25th. Rare recorded episode for us today instead of going live. Previewing this Ravens-Browns game. Ravens 4-2 going into Cleveland to play the 1-6 Browns. Browns have had a rough season. Deshaun Watson had a rough season, ended up tearing his Achilles. So it will be Jameis Winston on Sunday. Weather's going to be about 66 degrees. Ravens are favored by 8.5 over under 44.5. Last year, Ravens won their first game 28-3. And then second matchup, Browns had that 14-point crazy comeback, the pick six, all that stuff. Won that game 33-31 over the Ravens. Zach, how are we feeling going into this one?
Yeah, I don't know about you. I completely forgot about the first matchup. 28-3
Yeah,
is like a whooping. And then
I don't
33-31. Dude, that was a nightmare game. I mean, Deshaun Watson was in his bag, in his old Texans bag. We haven't seen that in a long time. And it made me really have a different idea about who he is as a player, seeing that he has the ability to play that high and just has not really anytime recently.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. That was like his one great game on the
Mm-hmm.
Browns, and just a terrible game for the Ravens overall, but only one of their 4 losses last year.
Mm-hmm.
Some big injury news going into this one. It kind of felt like all week that Zay Flowers wasn't going to be able to go after he had that injury against the Bucks, but he practiced today. Marlon Humphrey was limited today after not practicing earlier in the week. I would assume Humphrey isn't going to go. We'll see about that, though. Then for the Browns, Jedrick Wills, great tackle for them, has missed 3 practices in a row.
That's big.
And Jerome Ford returned to practice today. So they'll probably have Ford and Chubb in the backfield. Any thoughts there, Zach, on the injuries on either side?
Well, Jedrick Wills is awesome for them. He's been a cornerstone guy, and 3 straight practice is a big deal. We could see a lot of pressure for our D line, and hopefully open up a few more opportunities to get to Jameis and really rock his world. Zay returning in practice is awesome. Humphrey was I called it limited, but like he has not technically been a participant of practice. The limited was being on the side of the field doing like a workout. So we called it limited because it's kind of in between both, but hoping that he plays just so the defense is healthy and has an opportunity to play all together against a weaker offense like the Browns.
Yeah, for sure. So it seems like Zay will probably go. Humphrey probably more so on like the 15% side of things there. It's definitely big with Flowers being able to go. With all the motion they do with him, would have been a big miss. So yeah. History of Ravens Browns. Ravens are 36-14 all time. Lamar's a 7-3 record against the Browns. So Lamar actually not as good against the Browns as he is against the Bengals, but still Lamar and Mark Andrews together kind of own that state of Ohio. Both of them just always having great games. So yeah, in terms of the Browns offseason, they kind of ran back with the same roster. They did re-sign Zadarius Smith, and brought in Jameis Winston. They brought in Jameis Winston and Tyler Huntley after already having Dorian Thompson-Robinson. They had 3 quality backup quarterbacks on their roster and ended up getting rid of Huntley, and now it'll be Winston on Sunday. They signed James Prochet as well. I think he's been like a decent punt returner for them. Not really getting on the field on the offensive side of things, but you know.
Yeah, the 2 former Ravens were kind of heartbreaking. Usually that was one of the topics of the offseason where like division players staying in the division, like you don't really see that much, especially with a division as heated as ours. And I don't know. I felt like the Jameis signing for them was kind of important because it showed that they were going to give money to another quarterback like they kind of did with Flacco, and Flacco really saved their season last year. And they get Jameis basically for the same situation, and it ends up happening again. Deshaun's hurt, and you're trusting in a backup to finish out the rest of the year. It's going to be kind of exciting and a little scary to see what Jameis is like against us because our defense has not been playing great. And then Jameis does not care at all what he does and where he throws that ball. I'm a little intimidated. I'm a little more intimidated than I probably should be for that game, for just to see him against our defense.
Definitely, and that leads us right into the Browns offense versus the Ravens defense. Browns are 32nd, very last in yards per game, 30th in passing yards per game, 29th in rushing yards per game. Nick Chubb did return off that gruesome injury last year, and that was great to see. Being able to get back. I remember I saw something in the presser. He got emotional when someone was asking him about his recovery and all that. So it's good to see him back on the field. He's definitely not going to be the same player right now that he was before. Hopefully he can get back to that, but definitely doesn't have that sort of explosive side to him quite yet. Just 2 games back into the fold. I look at the Browns offense as, traded away Amari Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
So now they kind of just have Jerry Jeudy on the outside. They got Elijah Moore and Cedric Tillman. Also, some decent receivers there. Jamari Thrash, that number 4 guy, rookie. The O-line is okay. Actually, I don't know why I said okay. It's been bad.
Dang.
I remember seeing Deshaun Watson has been sacked 10 times more than the second highest sacked quarterback. They might be okay in the run side of things, but pass blocking, they have not been good. Like you mentioned, Jameis Winston, I've seen people saying, he could throw 4 touchdowns, he could throw 4 picks, he could do both. You really just don't know with him. You don't know what type of player you're going to get on a day-to-day basis. I will say, part of me is their offense will be better without Watson, but at the same time, they traded away Amari Cooper. So really not very many playmakers on the outside for them right now.
Mm-mm.
The only other team the Ravens have faced without a star wide receiver was the Bills. But even the Bills had, Shakir, who has a good season, and that good stuff. I will say David Njoku, probably their best offensive player right now because of just the Nick Chubb situation coming back from injury. Njoku has had a solid season. He always plays very well against the Ravens. So we'll see what he does on Sunday.
Yeah, just looking at their offense, it's not really setting up a backup quarterback, if anything, to succeed. Njoku and Chubb, I've somehow been fans of just because they kind of dial it up and turn it up a notch whenever they played the Ravens a while back. Chubb has every bit of the potential of, one of the best running backs in the league, and those injuries always set him back, and it sucks. He found the end zone last week, so maybe they're just looking to keep building on his confidence, and it's not necessarily the best week to build on that confidence when you play one of the best rushing defenses in the league. I think still number 1. So, I mean, I don't know. The only really positive you can look at for their offense is Chubb and Njoku, and I feel like it's going to be obvious to kind of shut those 2 down.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll be able to, we'll not be able to. We'll hope to see the Ravens pass defense get it together against a team that has been struggling running and passing the ball. But like you said, Ravens number 1 in rushing, last in passing. And it doesn't get easier with Marlon Humphrey probably not playing. So we'll see what Stevens and Wiggins can do. Might see Hamilton in the slot, Washington in the slot. Is Mollett will be playing, right? Arthur Mollett.
It seems like it. Everything's pointing to it. Yeah, nothing on the injury report unless he's been limited.
So that could help a lot. And we'll see what Marcus Williams can do, what Eddie Jackson can do. We talked about this in the Q&A with Sutton. These 2 games, Browns-Broncos, you can really try to get some confidence going on the defensive side of the ball and hope to go into that Bengals Thursday nighter, do a more tougher side of the schedule at the end of the year and maybe have a better defense, better communication, all that going into it. Do you have any other thoughts, Browns offense versus Ravens defense?
Well, another kind of thing for the Ravens defense, we talk about how turnover prone Jameis is, but our DBs, besides Marlon Humphrey, can't really seem to catch a pick. I mean, maybe we're really pushing the jugs machine this week. Maybe we're really practicing that type of stuff because I'm not necessarily really confident that, ball hits Ardarius Washington right in the hands and he doesn't actually pick it off. I mean, it could happen again this week. And I wouldn't be the one to bet money on it, though. So I hope they can make a lot of make a lot of turnovers,
Yeah.
and fix a lot of those mistakes that really freaking shift the game, especially, in a game like last week where those picks would happen and then the defense and the stats overall in the entire game are different.
Yeah.
We're not
Yeah.
sitting dead last and it builds. There's stuff like that. So they can fix it. And this is the perfect week to do it.
Exactly. And it is funny that Marlon Humphrey has 4 picks when he's been the guy his whole career unable to catch the ball.
That's
But
true.
he's having a great year. So now we'll shift over to the other side of the ball. Ravens offense versus Browns defense. Browns are 13th in yards per game allowed, 10th in passing, 15th in rushing. So kind of an average defense. They got some good players, though. Myles Garrett, I'd say second best pass rusher in the league behind TJ Watt. They get Dalvin Tomlinson and Shelby Harris on the D-line. Zadarius Smith, a possible trade candidate, the other defensive end there. JOK, the linebacker from Notre Dame. I know a lot of Ravens fans had their eye on him when he came out in the draft. They brought in Jordan Hicks. Then the secondary, talent-wise, just really, really good. Denzel Ward, Grant Delpit, Juan Thornhill, Martin Emerson, and Greg Newsome. All like big names and young players that have had solid careers so far.
Yeah, like their defense is pretty good on paper. Really, the names that they have and the people that they have constantly brought in over the last few years or drafted have been solid players. It's just the fact that their offense can't seem to match it. And that was kind of a theme, for the Steelers a little bit, but not to the level that the Steelers defense is playing. It's just the Browns are, right here in the middle. They're a top half defensive team, so it's not like it's going to be a pushover. But the way our offense is playing too, you can say that this is exactly what we want. We want a team that is proven in defense and has proven good players that we can test ourselves against. And either way, the Browns defense is the only part of their team that hasn't changed this year. Like maybe some like small injuries that we don't know of as just Ravens fans, but something like that where the Ravens can say, this is the side of the ball that we have to win. It has been, these last few weeks, but this is really important this time because where else are they going to get their spark of trying to win from?
Yeah, definitely. And looking at their schedule this year, like you mentioned, their defense, offense has really just been their issue. They beat the Jags 18-3 in week 2, and then these 5 losses in a row. So 5 losses in a row. They've given up 21-20. They did give up 34 to the Commanders, and then 20 to the Eagles and 21 to the Bengals. Just playing very solid defense in terms of points allowed.
Yeah.
And they also allowed a kick return to the Bengals. So Bengals only put up 14 on the offensive side of the ball against them. So offense has just really been their issue, and we'll see what happens with Winston coming into the fold. In terms of like the Ravens offense, like you mentioned, big that Zay Flowers is probably going to be playing. I'm not going to say it would have been treacherous out there without him, but the amount of times that they use Flowers in motion, it'd probably be like Bateman or Aguilar, or maybe even likely in those situations, and just does not strike the defense, make the defense as scared as Zay Flowers might. But he'll probably be out there. Derrick Henry will probably just continue to rush for 100 yards. Jim Schwartz mentioned, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, the Browns DC, that he said that Lamar was once a run-first quarterback, and now he's a pass-first quarterback that knows how to run. So definitely going to be tough for the Browns defense and Jim Schwartz over there, just figuring out how to defend this Ravens offense has been tough for every team this year so far. And one last matchup I look at is Ronnie Stanley versus Myles Garrett. Ronnie Stanley has had a lot of success against Myles Garrett in the past, and man, Ronnie Stanley's having a great year. I don't think anyone expected him to be playing this well, and it felt like the Ravens were almost sending him off this one last year and have Rosengard taking over at left tackle, but he's probably going to be looking at an extension this offseason with how great he's playing.
Yeah, dude.
Not too old for a tackle. You got Trent Williams playing at 40 years old and Tyron Smith playing at 41, so that's definitely good to see as well.
Ronnie's been perfect. Like you cannot ask for a guy to get a contract. Like his contract got changed around a little bit.
Took a pay cut, massive pay cut.
Like what a perfect player. And he absolutely deserves an extension. I hope we extend him. That's a big deal too, as well. But this is exactly where he earns his money. This is one of those weeks of 6 where they have to play a division guy, and they're an elite level talent, top 10 in the league. TJ Watt, Trey Hendrickson, and now you go against Myles Garrett, freaking defensive player of the year. Like, this is where he's going to get the real test and have to prove it.
Exactly. And we'll sort of move into now sort of what the Browns need to do to have a chance to win, and who's going to be that most important player on their team on Sunday. And I'll kick it to you. Who do you have as the Browns X factor on Sunday? And also, what do you think they need to do to have a chance in this one?
Well, we usually point to like stopping Derrick Henry or stop Lamar Jackson. I don't think that's going to happen. I've pointed in past weeks to the fact that you can turn the ball over with the Ravens and have a chance and be closer in the game, because, when they get in those drives where it's, 6 straight scoring drives last week, like there's stuff like that. And I feel like it happens every week where they just have a dominant stretch, and someone like JOK needs to stop that for the Browns this time. That's a big deal. And he'd be my X factor, I think.
Yeah, I like that. It's just so tough, just containing Lamar. And we talk about it every week. Like, is the defense going to be able to stop the Ravens? We've been saying this for a month now, and it's turned out to be no every time since the Chiefs and the Raiders game. I'm going to sort of break a rule of our podcast here. We sort of go with this, which non-quarterback needs to have a big game to win, but I'm going to say Jameis Winston here because of the fact that, it's his first time playing, starting for the Browns this year. And if he can find a way to not turn the ball over and maybe make a couple nice plays, maybe they're able to hit the Ravens over the top on one, maybe to Jerry Jeudy or Cedric Tillman or something along those lines. I think if Winston is able to have a strong performance and not have those massive turnovers, possibly in the red zone and things like that, Browns could have success on the offensive side of the ball and not let this one totally get away from them.
Yeah, like Jameis is a perfect pick. I think that their weapons, just in general, all their wide receivers, you could say is just probably the worst in the league. Like, I mean, don't disrespect, but it's just a bad, trio there. And with Njoku, obviously it helps a little, but
yeah,
it's just not the right situation to be able to go out and compete well offensively in games. And that's probably what's going to hurt him the most. I think that they have to get those crazy Jameis plays, and it's going to have to be mostly positive, crazy Jameis plays.
For sure. And Njoku's a guy we mentioned earlier, and he's another guy that if they want to have success, he's going to need to have a big game, and he has had plenty of big games against the Ravens. Just an extremely talented player that I feel like has not gotten enough opportunities in his career. Every time they seem to go to him early in a game, it's like he finishes with 100 receiving yards and like 2 touchdowns sometimes. In these games, he had a solid game last week, 24 fantasy points for me on my team there. So I like that. Over to the Ravens side of the ball, what do the Ravens need to do to win? It's honestly like at this point, you don't even really – there's not even really one thing, in my opinion. It's just – I would say almost just like keep doing what you're doing. Run the ball with Henry. Like Lamar is the best quarterback in football right now. He just needs to keep doing what he's doing. And maybe more so on the defensive side of things, just not blowing coverages. Maybe if you have a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter in this one, trying to play the same defense you've been playing all game instead of, Ed Reed mentioned on the Manning cast against the Bucs when they're going down scoring over and over again at the end of the game, he said the game's over in their minds and their effort just isn't there. And Kyle Van Noy came on a podcast and he defended Ed Reed's take. He said, yeah, like we need to be better at the end of games. And I feel like that's kind of what the Ravens are looking at here.
Yeah, and Ed Reed's, as big of a name as it gets for something like that. And whenever you hear that, there's not a single person in that locker room who should be going against it. Kyle Van Noy, also Super Bowl winning player mentality. Everything about him also speaks volumes to a veteran leader on this team. He absolutely needed to side with him, and I expected it to. I expect most of the players to. If anyone were to be against that, they'd be very, very stupid.
Yeah, definitely. Zach, on your side of things, who's your X factor for the Ravens in this one?
I'm looking at the tight ends. Mark Andrews, for what, the last 3 weeks has found the end zone. Is that right? Like, and great fashion. I mean, dude, the way that we felt, maybe that first Q&A, week 2 with Sutton, we were sitting
Yeah.
there like, how are we going to handle this? Are we about to trade Mark Andrews? Like, do we need to consider doing this? Likely's balling. No, we have the luxury of both of them, and this means that in a series where Lamar and Mark tend to find each other all the time with the Browns, it feels like it's going to happen again, does it not? I mean, he's finding the end zone like this at this rate right now, at a rate where we saw in Pro Bowl seasons and his best years. And I couldn't be happier for him. I think likely since that first week has been a little more quiet, maybe a few touchdown grabs since then. But other than that, we haven't really seen a big game from him. I think since the Browns are 15th in rushing, we're still going to attack that. We still want, Derek to break off that big 50-plus yard run at some point during the game. That feels like it happens every single week. And with that means both tight ends being on the field and being available. And I think just the tight ends, even Kolar, maybe a big grab. They need to be important for the Ravens this week.
Yeah, definitely. It is interesting that Likely hasn't really had, after that Chiefs game, it felt like Likely might be the Ravens' leading receiver this year. And I do think they need to get more involved. It's so hard when you have this many playmakers, but it's not like he's –
No,
yeah.
sorry. Like, the secondary for the Browns right now is playing pretty well.
Yeah.
10th in passing, and also just, a plethora of big names for them that we constantly hear. Delpit and Ward and Newsome, all those guys are very, very capable corners, and they have a pretty good task ahead of them with Zay and Bateman and maybe covering some of those tight ends. I think that since their job is going to be so important with stopping, the bigger plays with Bateman and Zay, tight ends could really find a big game too.
Yeah, for sure. On my side of things for Ravens X Factor, I'm going to go with Nate Wiggins in this one, with Marlon Humphrey probably not playing unless it was just a rest all week thing and let him try to get out there. I think Nate Wiggins is going to have to play well. Stevens is going to have to play well. And we'll just be able to see if the secondary can hold up without their best player in this one.
Talk about a week where it feels like there's going to be some picks, right? Who is going to make those plays? I mean, is Marcus Williams going to be available in this case? Is Ardarius not going to drop one? Is Kyle Hamilton going to, quick, tough pick six walking into the end zone again? Like, what's going to happen? There's plenty of opportunities in this game with Jameis. And maybe even, if Jameis doesn't come out swinging immediately, then they go with DTR. And if DTR comes out there, we've tend to own him in the past. So it's a lot of stuff coming together where the secondary can make a big, big name for themselves in this one.
So let's get into score predictions here. I guess I'll go with mine first.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Ravens 28, Browns 14. Maybe this is a weird game where no field goals are kicked, 6 total touchdowns are scored.
Okay.
I swear there's been a 28-14 win against the Browns before. It feels like a familiar score.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Ravens maybe get out to a nice start. Maybe they're up 21-7 at half, and maybe we just see it finish 28-14. I think the Ravens are going to find a way to have a solid defensive game. And, I will say 2 of these games where the teams have come roaring back, an onside was recovered in 2 of the games. And that's 14 consecutive points when an onside is recovered and you score touchdowns twice. So I think the Ravens will find a way to close this one out in satisfying fashion.
Yeah, I'm looking at 30-16 Ravens, maybe a touchdown, a lot of field goals for the Browns. Getting, a few plays to get downfield. Maybe Chubb breaks one off, maybe something like that. And they get, a little bit of what we've seen from the Ravens defense giving up. But other than that, I don't see why the offense can't keep rolling. Make sure that everyone's healthy as well. Like maybe Zay isn't utilized as much as we've seen in some weeks. It feels like just a random thought. Zay this year either has, 8 catches for 100 yards or he has 1 for 10. Like it really is that hot and cold. And this feels like another week where it'd be, a little cold, right? Like maybe you feel that way at all?
Yeah, you don't think he'll be super involved coming off an injury and not wanting to re-injure or make worse what the injury was. If the Ravens can, have success offensively without him, they probably will. Not keep him on the field. At the same time, we never know what's going on with injuries. Like, there's a chance that they're just making sure he's good, and he's actually like 90% right now, and he's good to go. He could be 50% right now. You really don't know, but time will tell on Sunday.
Yeah, but I think we both have the big win, and I think we also have Ravens covering. I think that number is kind of surprising too, because every big game is kind of close to that number, whether we've given up the lead or kept the lead or just really beating them up, like maybe the Bills. But really, it's kind of a great number because they're making us think, oh, can the Ravens really hold on to that big lead and finish it out, or are they going to be able to do what they've done the past couple weeks and start choking in the end?
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll see if the Ravens can improve to 6-2 on the season in this one after starting 0-2, which would just be a crazy run that would continue to be going on and keep stacking wins until this very late bye week that they have. So
I kind of like the late bye.
I do too, because I think when you're a perennial playoff team, it's nice to get that rest near the playoffs instead of in the first week of October. I would hate to have a week 5, week 6 bye week.
That's too early, dude. That's way too early.
Yeah. So I think that'll be all from us in this one. Appreciate you guys for watching. Be sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll be back around 4 p.m. Sunday with a Browns-Ravens recap live edition. So we'll see you guys then. Appreciate everyone for watching. See ya.
Peace.